Hello, folks.
All right.
How are you guys doing? All good?
Well, fun.
Good, good. Hi, Christian. Good to
Hello.
see you. Let me see. I will. It's always difficult because we need to share the link for the working group meeting notes. But people joining after I share the link will not get that. So let's try to do that now. Chat. So, folks, if you can join there and add your name. This meeting is being recorded, so yeah, we'll just try to keep track of whatever we discuss here. And there are a bunch of things to be discussed, but let's see if Daniel, I think that Thomas will not be able to join. One of the chairs is on holiday, so he will not join today unless he joins from holidays, which will be interesting. And Colin, I don't think that we have met yet. Is it your first time joining the call, or did you join last time?
This is my first time. I saw
Yep.
the big announcement blog post you guys did and clicked on the link, joined the Slack group, and now here I am. So thanks for the invite.
Perfect. Welcome. Welcome. And are
Thank you.
you working from Cisco?
Yeah, I work for Cisco.
Good, good, good. Like your t-shirt, it's very
Oh,
clear.
yeah, how about that? Sorry. Most of my
That's
t-shirt
all.
has Cisco something.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Good, good, good. And Rudra, I don't know if we have met before.
No,
You
this
have
is my
been
first time.
first
This is my
time?
first time
Where?
as well. Yeah.
Good, good,
I
good.
work. Yeah, I work at a company called Crom.
Okay.
Located in Columbia, South Carolina.
Perfect. Great, great, great. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
So folks, if you are new to the working group, right? Like what we're trying to do here is basically try to cover a little bit of like the development aspects of some of the CNCF projects in the landscape. And that's kind of like our like initial goal. This is not the ultimate goal of the working group or the main focus of the working group, but this is what we are focused on right now to be able to create some deliverables. In the meeting notes, I think that let's go and check that. Yeah, so there are a couple of things happening, right? Like there's like KubeCon North America happening in November. So we are trying to use KubeCon in North America as like our main driving force for defining what this working group is about, bringing the right people into the conversation, and just again trying to see how this working group can help, the CNCF and the entire industry to basically bring developers closer to the cloud native space. I think that we have waited for 3 minutes. Usually these meetings, what we try to do is we have an agenda with a bunch of topics to discuss. And when we cover everything and when we don't have anything else to discuss, we will just basically call it a day. We don't want to waste anyone's time here. And today, because we are like a few people, what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you this, because if you're joining for the first time, you're probably not aware of this document. I'm just pasting it there in the chat. And Christian, I need to thank you for all the comments that you added. Yeah, very helpful. And usually what we do during this meeting is we go over the comments from different members, and then we just try to get some kind of consensus on where do we want to take the conversation forward. Most of your comments, Christian, were like on point, right? I'm pretty much agreeing with most of them.
Thanks.
So thank you for adding those. So let me share my screen and let's see if I can do that. I will just try to move this all the way. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. So let me share my screen. Usually we drive this conversation with Daniel from Red Hat. He's also very involved in the working group, so you will see him around most of the time. So can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Perfect. And I want to see if I can just put the comments here. Yes, there you go. Let me see if I can close this. So this document again, it's it's like a draft document. It's like a living document on our discussions. And as we are kind of like saying here, is that we are just trying to figure out which projects in the CNCF landscape have developed like a developer persona as kind of like a focus, and then try to go to developers and see, if they know about these projects and if they understand how these projects will relate to their, everyday tasks. In order to explain this, what we need to do first is first of all, try to limit a little bit of the amount of projects that we are looking into. And for that, we basically are focusing on these, on graduated and incubating projects, which are not a few, right? Like there are a bunch of projects in that space. And some of them are not even closely related to developers, right? Like CNI, this is like the container network interface. A developer probably doesn't need to be aware of any of that, or at least for this working group right now, that wouldn't be the main focus, right? But some of the tools, like for example, Keycloak or like an identity provider, might be more interesting for developers because they need to get, identity and stuff. Ryan, thank you for joining. I'm trying to explain the new members where we are with the discussions and trying to define that. So yeah, like tools like Open Feature, this project provides like feature flagging for applications, and they provide SDKs in different languages. So it makes a lot of sense for a developer to know a little bit more about this. But when you go to like conference like KubeCon, or when you go to like CNCF webinars, developers usually don't even know that project exists or what does it do. So again, it's a little bit of awareness, the thing that we're trying to build first. So you will see here in this document that we are trying to define exactly what developers do usually. Like we need some kind of like buckets to say, this tool was designed for this phase in the development, practices of the development team. So part of these definitions are trying to come up with these buckets, right? And you will see that there are like a bunch of comments here, and we encourage all the members to go and use suggestion mode or add comments into the text to try to align this in a way that it's understandable for everyone, but also it's concrete enough for us to, classify projects based on these categories. And then kind of like some sort of template for classifying projects, like when developers will use these projects, what are these projects providing? Are they providing SDKs? Are they providing a specification that teams can follow? And all these kind of things. And we started with a list of 10 projects, right? And that we're trying to cover. So what we're doing now is looking at the landscape, all these projects, which projects can be relevant for developers and why. And that's kind of like what you will find next, right? Like for example, cloud events is like a specification. Developers will use this specification for certain things when they are architecting their cloud native applications and when they are coding, because there will be maybe an SDK involved. And then again, trying to explain a little bit more about the context for that. Our goal right now is to refine this classification process and see if we can collaborate to the landscape itself, right? Like if we can have some kind of view here that says, if you are a developer, click this button, and then you will see these 10 projects with, extra information that will give you kind of like that information that you're looking as a developer. That's the main focus right now. And again, different members know different projects. So what we are trying to do here is just do this review process where you can go and read the description, see if you understand what we are trying to define here, and come up with your own perspectives and suggest changes, just to this content. The goal here is to have something for KubeCon so we can create some sort of report or some kind of like printed version that we can distribute to attendees on the conferences. We want to basically make sure that in the conference itself, we can engage with developers with a clear message of, how many of these tools do you know? How many of these tools are you using? And if you don't know these tools, this is the main things that you need to learn about it, because, these tools are going to solve some of the challenges that you are facing, every day. I would encourage, the new members just to check kind of like this document to see where the discussions are currently, and then check the comments. We will try to sort some of these comments, just try to solve things and, evolve the content of this thing, just to make it better. We have been doing this for at least 5 or 6 meetings. And I think that we are reaching to a point where, we kind of like, I'm kind of liking the shape of this document. And now we are like looking into kind of like the next phase, which is trying to figure out kind of like a survey for people that we meet in the conference, right? Christian, to your point, yes, it's really hard. Like surveys are super hard to create. We will probably need someone that has some sort of like experience on creating these kind of questions. I cannot claim to know about the scientific side of surveys, but we cannot define like super open questions because then analyzing the answers will be super hard. But I'm okay with having kind of like a little bit more, high level questions that help us to identify the direction of the entire working group, right? Like the idea here is to gather data that we can use to, just to push the deliverables of this working group forward.
So maybe it will also help to have this last part on the tools. Maybe not just do you know those tools, but have that more on a range. Like, do you know this? Do you use these tools? Are you aware of these tools? Do you use these tools and are not happy with them? Something like that, to have kind of a star rating, but something like that stuff, because I think then we get a better insight on how they use it, if they are known or not known, and if they are usable, quotes and quotes, for whatsoever reason. I think that gives us a better angle on working on that, right?
100%. So basically, your suggestion is here like something like, are you familiar, but also are you using it?
I can make a proposal how to structure that.
Yeah, I think that's good. Are you using it, or are you maybe having issues with it? Or stuff like that, just for us to understand the level of understanding of the tools. And then I think that again, like questions like what's the biggest obstacle, right? Like if you're not using it, why not? Because you didn't knew it, or because you like tried to use it but you couldn't. Yeah, perfect. And I totally believe that things like this, what are your top 3 issues when it comes to cloud native application development? It makes a lot of sense. Maybe what we need there is like a few options, so we can just like, narrow it down. It's like, is it too complex? Is it like, I don't know which tools to use, or that kind of stuff. So anything that you can suggest in that space, that will be awesome.
Yeah, I will do so. Yeah, until the next meeting.
Try to use suggestion mode, right? And then just add content there. Yeah. And finally, I approved your suggestions here because I do believe that we need that kind of stuff. So we have a glossary, which is again like just trying to identify some common terms that this working group wants to use. And there are tons of different definitions out there about, for example, like inner development loop. We found some references from Red Hat. There was something from Microsoft as well. And there are a bunch of articles on that space. But we wanted to kind of like have a working group positioning on these things as well. Just try to come up with some definitions, not always just for the sake of creating definitions, but also to be able to have a place where we can put references for people that wants to understand more about, like, this is a very short definition, but look at all these references about what other companies are saying about these things. And I think that that's pretty much what we have done so far with the working group. I think that refining this document is our main task. And as you can see here, there is a Jagger at the end, which is a graduated project. If somebody is familiar with Jagger and wants to feel kind of like these questions, I will appreciate that, because I am familiar with Jagger, but I also would love to get some other people, like, just bringing their own perspectives on the projects and how do these projects like help developers in which phases and all that stuff. Any questions, any suggestions, or anything that the group wants to talk about?
For the I have a question that may seem like a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
No stupid questions. Go for it.
For the survey, what are we going to do with the results of the survey? What do we want to learn from the survey?
That's a very good question. So at least from my opinion, I think like I'm super happy to bring more opinions. What I want to learn is, first of all, like awareness. Secondly, how many developers do we meet, like in the conference? And then what I want to do with the results is I want to publish the results as part of the deliverable of the working group, but also I want to use the results to define next steps and where we're going with this working group.
Okay.
Right? Because like if we get 100 responses and nobody check any of these projects, then we will need to figure out in trouble not, but then the steps will be different, right? Like maybe we'll just need to figure out a way for pushing this into developer communities.
Okay, so it's a little bit of a way to assess engagement and kind of estimate population, for lack of a better term. And it's a
Yeah.
little bit of a way to understand where the existing centers of gravity are for development.
Yes. Can you add those notes here?
Yeah,
Because
I'm
I think
happy.
that like reason why we need this.
How long or short do we want the survey to be?
That's a very, very, very good question. My approach to this is like, let's add as many questions as we think that they are relevant, and then we make a decision of how many questions will,
Yeah.
be delivered for KubeCon.
When you talk about publishing, it makes me think of like State of JS survey or like Stack
Yeah.
Overflow survey, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And like
Mhm.
those are pretty substantial in terms of
Yeah.
like what kind of insights they're. So the purpose is a little bit different if we're trying to get some insights for ourselves versus if we're trying to give insights to the community. And I think we're not at the second phase yet.
Let's start
Yeah.
simple, I would say. Yeah, let's start
Okay.
simple. Let's do it for the working group, and then just to use that to drive direction. And then we can think about like a more serious survey that, like, because what I've seen happening in the CNCF is that usually you start simple and then you make this a CNCF survey, right?
Yep.
And
Okay.
then we reach to like a very, very large audience. Then we can go with more questions just to actually use that data for different purposes. Most of these things they are done online, right? Like we just create like a form in Google Forms or something, and then we just distribute and just try to get people to fill it up. But again, this is going to help the working group just to figure out the coordination mechanisms with CNCF itself, with the tag app delivery, which is the parent advisory group that we are under with, and yeah, like it's a lot of work, but that's why I think that we need to do this. Christian, what do you think? Because I know that you also have some background on that space and strong opinions. Do you have any? Yeah, go for it.
What you said and what Ryan said made perfect sense. So I think that the goal should be to have or to sharpen our understanding of how the projects are used and where there are gaps that we should work on to close them. I mean, it's circling around my very first comment on this document with what's the goal. I mean, the goal is to navigate the app developers through the CNCF landscape and tell them, if you have this kind of a design pattern, like at least from my understanding, if you have this problem, then CNCF offers this tool that can help you with achieving that when you build a cloud native application. And we, or at least I'm not super familiar with all the CNCF stuff and the knowledge there. But I think what we should gain is, how does the larger population understand how the tools can be used? Do they find them? Are they able to use them? Do they have problems with using them? Like missing documentation or samples? I don't know what. I think that is something that we should target the survey around.
Yeah,
at least it's
100%.
my understanding.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty close to what we're trying to achieve here. There are different angles, but that's why we're having these meetings, right? Like just to try to pinpoint what most of the members think about these problems. And also, like, for me, it's always like thinking about, like, if you think about the different loops, right? I think that by us doing this kind of like awareness piece, it's going to help us to say, well, like the CNCF is providing tools for this phase here and this phase here, but this phase, nobody is creating a project there, right? So we will find the gaps, and maybe like the first iteration is on CNCF projects, but then we can do another iteration on external projects that are not just CNCF, and how these external projects relate to the CNCF projects. Are they using OpenTelemetry? Are they using kind of like one of these like specs that are being promoted by the CNCF? And I think that connecting these groups and these tools together will make a lot of sense.
I think similar to what you two are saying, I have I have an interest in identifying blind spots. So like what are the areas where there are important needs where open source does not meet them, or where CNCF open source does not meet them? And then I think the second thing for me is understanding from the cloud native community, what are the tasks that they are responsible for versus not responsible for? And it's not going to be uniform, but like, where do we focus our attention? What do developers consider a developer task, right? In their day-to-day. You can see, like, we already had a little bit of a debate about like pipeline, like CI/CD pipeline authoring elsewhere in Docker. It'd be better to answer that with data.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And data should lead the way, right? So if we find a lot of developers thinking that that's important, well, we need to look into that and just to consider it. As I was saying in one of the comments, I think that like we need to find some consensus on the starting point, and we need to have some focus, right? Like we can just not cover everything at first. And I think that we are doing it like in the right way so far, like having open discussions and figuring out which projects are important and which are not. So I think that we should keep doing that. Yeah. I'm super happy with the progress.
Great.
For
Just have a
the new
question.
members, go for it. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm fine with, scoping the list to, I think it was 10 projects, right, that you listed out.
Yep.
And just keeping that scoped. But maybe also opening up to use cases that we haven't thought of, right? If someone is using a project that we might say, okay, that's more on the infrastructure side, they found a way to use it, and the app developer side, right? It would be good to allow them to suggest a use case that we don't have listed.
100%. Yeah. Right now, I don't think that we are focusing on use cases, but I think that that should come eventually, right? So when we talk about like cloud native application development, you will talk a lot about architecture and like application architecture. That it's something that I haven't seen that much on the CNCF. It's mostly about like, there are some architecture talks, but like very infra related, not much like application level architecture. So I'm looking forward to see how, for example, some of these projects and other projects like come and help, application developers in that space as well. And again, if you know some other projects that people is using for, application development, please bring it here, like into the discussions.
I mean, the reason I bring it up is because I use OPA, right, to version out my business logic, right? And that's all written in code. So that's, that could be something that makes it here. And if we are scoping it to just like, hey, let's start with 10, we don't have to add it, right? I'm just suggesting as another project that could be used by an app developer.
100%.
We have it in our backlog, right?
Yes, we do have it. Yeah, definitely. Because I've seen this being mentioned before. And again, yes, all those use cases are more than welcome. My suggestion would be like, if you are if you are into OPA and you want to bring kind of like OPA knowledge into that space, let's create a separate document and let's link it here where we do some research on that. For example, again, trying to answer some of these questions, right? Maybe we can just answer these questions about OPA and then see how that fits. And then as soon as we finish this focused work, we include more and more stuff.
That makes sense.
We can also use results of the survey to set up workshops for the tools that aren't being used much just to promote usage.
Workshop sounds like a great idea. Yes, definitely. Something that we are not doing like very, very well right now is to bring, for example, so one of the objectives here, something that we discussed before, is that we need to get this document in shape so we can go to the cloud events team and then just show them this and then just figure out if they are happy with the information that we are showing here, right? And I think that we will do the same, like, if we have like something like OPA described, we will go there and say, okay, is this guy like not the official, but like the maintainers of the project that created these, like, is it a good positioning of the project that they created? Like, are we categorizing their project or their specification correctly when we do this? Do they feel comfortable with this? And that's why we something that I need to do for the next meeting is try to create some set of milestones of how do we refine this text and how do we start sharing this with other teams so we can get feedback from the specific projects. I think that this is extremely important. It's not something that we can do on our own because we are part of this entire ecosystem. We need to get some sort of validation for these different projects. If they are not interested, that's fine, but at least we need to reach out and then just ask for feedback from them as well.
Just point of information on that. It would be good when you're communicating that, right, and bringing it to them to say like, hey, this is specifically for the app developer persona, right?
Yes.
If we, leave off something that's really super important feature, but it's more for the infrastructure developer, the SREs, the DevOps guys, right? They'll harp on that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's totally fair. Let me stop this for a second. Let me bring this other window here. Yes, that's definitely something that we need because yeah, and I think that I will add a note about that, like here notes. So share, share document or share, project categorization with open source project teams for feedback and make sure they understand that this comes from an application perspective. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's good. So find document and with external teams. This goes there. Perfect. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's super important. And we will need to draft some sort of like a communication, like or an email or a message in Slack to these teams. And we will do that like in the group as well, as we have been doing kind of like the blog post and the other things where we have a document where we said, this is what we want to say to other teams. And we will review that probably in one of these meetings too. So yeah, that sounds good. I think that this is pretty much what I have on my side. Again, it's like we don't want to spend more time than the one is necessary here. And again, we have new members. So if the new members have any other questions about what we are doing here or what do we where do we want to go for KubeCon, feel free to engage. I'm guessing that you all are like in the Slack channels. So if you're in the Slack channels, we do most of our communications like asynchronously there. The group chat is not that active, but because again, we do like async in Google Docs, like on comments or in Slack. So feel free to ask questions there or propose new things just to add here.
Which
Ryan,
Slack
Colin,
channels? Yeah, which
so
Slack channel should we be in?
Slack channels, let's go here. So it's CNCF. It's WG app development.
Okay. Are there others
Are
that
you
we
there?
should be in too? Yeah, I'm in that one.
So if you're in that one, that's kind of like where we like if you have questions, that's where you tag us and basically ask questions. I don't think that there is like any other one like related to this working group, but you can always go to Tag App Delivery, which is the the parent group where all the working groups are. There is something else, and I don't know, Ryan. Like, I know that you're interested. Like, you're also involved with the infrastructure, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the other thing that we need to define at some point. Define the actions with the platforms, with the platform working group, and the infrastructure.
We're still waiting to get the to get the charter approved for infrastructure, and I think we're still waiting for chairs to get approved.
Define.
So
yeah,
for chairs to get defined. So probably the timing for that is like 2 weeks.
Makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that that's kind of like what I will encourage to do. Like, and I probably will try to join some of the platform working group meetings as well. The idea of us working with our with the other working groups under the same tag, because we need to figure it out how to make the communication flowing, because whatever we define here, whatever we create, there needs to be some sort of understanding of if we do this for developers, but if we can help also the platform teams to communicate with developers, we should do that. Good stuff.
Okay.
Folks, thank you very much for joining. Any other questions, comments?
No, I'll try to dig up some survey questions that I like and make some suggestions.
Please do. Please do.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
right.
Thank you so much.
everyone.
Thank you, Christian and Colin, for joining. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
see you soon.